This time on the Highland Woodworker.
I never intended to do woodworking. I went to school to study Shakespeare.
Megan Fitzpatrick is one of the most prolific master woodworkers and writers of our time. And her story is so interesting that it reads like a book and you can't put it down.
I didn't have any fear because I didn't know that I was supposed to be afraid of dovetails. I just thought they looked cool.
Plus, something smart for your table saw.
The hold down is holding it down right above the cut. It's nice even pressure.
Popular Woodworking Magazine has a helpful how-to on hold downs. These stories and more, this time on the Highland Woodworker. Hello, I'm Charles Brock and I'm a Highland Woodworker. I just love coming to Highland Woodworking in Atlanta, Georgia. It's where I get all my fine woodworking tools and a great woodworking education. The words she writes are as descriptive and detailed as the wood she works. For years, Megan Fitzpatrick has inspired many readers to get into their shop by making the complex much easier to comprehend. See how Megan has gone from Shakespeare to shaker furniture in our moment with a master. Megan, tell me about your early influences. What was Megan like as a young elementary student?
Really obstreperous, I'm assuming. I don't remember. But I grew up in old houses and stuff, and so we were always fixing them up or doing something with our hands. And I guess I got some of my lack of fear to tackle a project from growing up in that sort of environment. And my grandfather trained as a cabinet maker at Louisville's Manual High School. He never actually did it for a living, although he did work for the L&N Railroad as a carpenter right after he got out of school. But he had this wonderful tool chest, and I just loved it. And there's pictures on my blog. It looks a lot like the Anarchist tool chest, but it has all these sliding trays that I always thought were really cool when I was a kid, but I wasn't allowed to touch it because girls belonged in the kitchen and boys belonged in the workshop. And I think maybe part of my inspiration was I wanted to show him that wasn't quite true, although I do like to cook too. Anyway.
Yeah, I understand then that you wanted to show them that girls and tools were okay.
I think so. And actually, when I was promoted to editor of Popular Woodworking, I can't remember what year that was, 2011 or 12, there were people who questioned having a woman in charge of a woodworking magazine. I'm not positive, but I think I was the first woman editor of a mass market woodworking magazine. So I like to think that I inspired some other people, at least a little bit on that front. But the interesting thing, perhaps, is that I never intended to do woodworking. Right? I went to school to study Shakespeare.
Shakespeare.
I know.
Yeah. So
has a lot to do with it, right?
How do you get from Shakespeare to woodworking and make a good fit? Because it seems like, well, you're scholarly, is that right?
I used to like to think that I was. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, you've used some words in our conversation today that I'd never heard before, so...
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I like words.
Well, evidently, and you have a great vocabulary because you're able to take some of the old and teach us woodworkers what it means and how maybe to use it. So, let's go back to your education and how it ended up sending you on a path that took you finally to Popular Woodworking Magazine and to today.
Well, I started at the parent company for Popular Woodworking is F&W Media. Well, actually, at the time, it was F&W Publications. It was still a family-owned business. And I started in the marketing department. I had turned in my resignation to go back to school to get a PhD in Shakespeare, well, in early modern drama. Early modern is what we call that time period. And I was offered the job at Pop Wood as managing editor, and I said no because I'm going back to school to study Shakespeare. And Chris and Christopher Schwartz and Steve Shaughnessy allowed me to take classes as needed during the day while I was working for Pop Wood, and I would just go back and forth to school and make up the time. As long as everything got done, it was fine. And so I was able to finish all my coursework and take the job popwood.
But you weren't a woodworker at
No,
this time at
no,
all.
I wasn't. But I loved words and learning new jargon. You know, there's always new jargon to learn when you
Sure.
have a new job. Like I can reliably spell rabbit now instead of like little bunny.
Right.
And after about 6 months, maybe 6 months or maybe a year, I decided, well, I'm here. There's these at the time. Let's see, there were 5 guys on staff who were building out in the shop every day, and I decided, I might as well learn this while I'm here. And I knew my grandfather was still alive at the time. He had a lot of tools. I thought maybe he'd finally let me use them if I actually knew something.
Tell us about kind of your development. You did some projects and they were small things, I guess, and then they got larger. And we're sitting in the middle of the great...
The 2,800 square foot project.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so tell us about some of that.
Well, when I started out, I really wanted to learn to cut dovetails. One of the first things I did was learn to cut dovetails, which is something a lot of people are scared of for a long time. I think something that served me well is that nobody ever expected me to be a woodworker. Right? I told you my grandfather thought I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It wasn't in 2005 when I joined the magazine. Sure, there were women doing it, and there are lots of women, I should say, who are much better woodworkers than I am, but they just haven't had a lot of exposure. So anyway, I didn't have any fear because I didn't know that I was supposed to be afraid of dovetails. I just thought they looked cool. Anytime I looked at antique furniture, and I've been doing that all my life, dovetails are what you looked at. So I thought, I'll learn to cut dovetails. So I did. And I think I approached it without any fear whatsoever. So this is the box that I made with Kelly Mailer down at his school. And you can see that the dovetails aren't great. They're pretty gappy. And my grandfather said I shouldn't be allowed to use such nice wood on my first dovetail project. You know, these are just scraps of walnut. And now I think back and I'm saying that. I'm like, do you know how many scraps of walnut I end up throwing away? And now I feel guilty about it. I hear his voice every time. Anyway, I like to keep this around, like near me by my computer. I also have all my old collection of glasses in there. I keep it with me because it reminds me that even the not best work is going to stay together for years because I made this, 12, 15 years ago? Maybe I don't even know anymore. And one of the things I stress to students is that a dovetail is a mechanical joint. Even if it's not perfect, it's almost certainly going to hold your piece together. And if it doesn't, you can add a nail through it and that'll be fine too. But the dovetail as an exposed joint and as a decorative item as opposed to simply a utilitarian item is a fairly 20th century construct, I think.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the arts and crafts through tenon, and that was a decorative tenon, a decorative joinery thing. Then you have, say, James Krenoff, et cetera, in the mid-20th century, using the joinery as the decoration. And that sort of ruined it for everybody who thinks it has to be perfect in order to be good.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and I stress that in every class that I teach. What is important is that you make a strong mechanical joint that will stay together. The tighter it is, to a point, the stronger it is. But it's probably strong enough even if you have a few gaps. And, you know, this is only, 10, 15, 20 years old, so it's not really proof of concept, but I've got pieces in this house that are 200 years old. They're still together. Dovetails are terrible. Doesn't matter. If I have a problem in woodworking and I want to solve it, I think of a hand tool first, not a power tool. Apparently that's odd. I don't know why. Makes perfect sense to me. Anyway, so I wasn't afraid to learn the hand tools, so that's what I did first. And then I thought, well, I don't really want to surface and size all this lumber by hand. I have to break down and learn the jointer and the planer and the table saw and the band saw.
So the hybrid shop.
Yeah, it's absolutely hybrid. I don't find any great joy in taking 8/4 material down to 1 inch. I want to run. No, it's terrible. Yeah. I'll do it if I can teach a class in it, sure, but I don't choose to do it exactly. So I wanted to learn how to use the equipment and learn that side of things, and then also combine that with the hand tool side of things so I could enjoy all of woodworking and not just concentrate on, that's all of woodworking. I can't carve to save my life. Anyway, then I got my head on my shoulders, or my ass on my shoulders, as they say in Georgia, I think, and decided, well, I'm a girl and you think I can only build little stuff, so I'm going to build the biggest stuff in the shop, and I did. So this was inspired obviously by a traditional shaker step back, but I made it to hold what were at the time contemporary audiovisual stuff. Now it's 10 years out of date, so
Yeah.
but I like to take
gorgeous.
old. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Well, I like to take an old form and make it work for today, if you will, because people are probably more likely to appreciate what looks to be a period piece of furniture if it still works for their lifestyle. So that's what I've tried to do with a lot of the things that I've designed.
The whole house is a tremendous woodworking project.
It is.
And changing this from a kind of a duplex into
It
a
had been
single
turned
race?
into a duplex in the 1950s, and so I'm turning it back into what it was originally when it was built. So.
It's really going to shine.
Thank
I
you.
can tell. Yes.
I know it doesn't look like it, but there's actually been a lot of work done already.
Well, Megan, what was the first project that you made or built?
Right. Well, the first thing you'd probably consider a real project is my dining room table here. I just wanted a simple kind of a X-frame base on it that knocks down. So this whole thing knocks down, although the top is really heavy. So calling it knockdown furniture is a little bit funny. Okay, so that's the first actual joined together project I built. But I have the first project from when I first picked up a sharp knife.
You're kidding.
No, it's a stick. So I went from one stick to many sticks.
There you go.
So that I made at summer camp when I was probably 10, maybe 11, and I just found this stick on the ground and it had a vine wrapped around it. So I thought I was being very clever, taking off the bark in between, and now I have this spiral thing with. It's a live edge project made in what would that have been? 1978. So well before its time. I like to think I was. A forerunner of the live edge movement that we're enjoying right now.
It's great that you still have it.
It's a silly project, but I love that I have it.
Because you never know where your life is going, and since you've kind
Right.
of made
I've got
the
a walking
circle,
stick to lead me there.
there you go.
That's right. Or to bop people on the head with. So.
All right. I see a nice post and rung chair over there. Did you build that?
I did. That is a variation on Jenny Alexander's design. It was made, that style exactly was developed by Larry Barrett, and that's who taught me and Christopher Schwartz and Brendan Gaffney and a couple of other friends to build that over a week in his shop in Baltimore. And this was all sort of in preparation for the new version of Make a Chair from a Tree that Lost Art Press is working on.
Megan has now set up shop at Lost Art Press, literally. She even has her own bench there. When Megan is not building fine furniture or teaching classes, she uses her editorial expertise to assist in writing, editing, and laying out many of the books Lost Art Press puts on the shelves. And if that's not enough, Megan has even started her very own publishing company.
I've been in publishing, in woodworking publishing, for, almost 15 years now. I want to take a book that I think should be out there and make sure it's available to everybody. So I scanned an old copy, 1845, of Mechanic's Companion, which is the Nicholson bench by Peter Nicholson. And this has actually more than just woodworking. It's everything you need to know to build a structure and what goes around it. In this one was 1845. And that appeals to me because, of course, there's a lot in here about house carpentry and bricklaying and all the stuff you might need, and plastering, everything you might need to know to rehab a 19th century home. So I decided to start with this one, and it's just a reprint, but I cleaned it. These pages were all foxed, they were all brown, and so I had to clean them all up, and I blew up the type and reproduced the plates nicely, just to try to make this available to a much larger number of people who couldn't necessarily find a $200, $300 vintage copy. So I'll be doing a couple of these. I have another one coming up that I can't talk about yet.
Okay.
I'm also working on a book that I'm writing called Shakespeare's Furniture, which is combining both of my loves there, looking back at the furniture pieces that show up not just in Shakespeare, but that's the catchy title, in the plays at the time, and then doing a philosophical front section, and then in the back I'll build some of the pieces. So I'll be having, hopefully, I'm going to say 2021 that'll be out.
Oh, wow.
So I'm doing that, and that's Rude Mechanicals Press. Rude Mechanicals, also from Shakespeare, from Midsummer Night's Dream. Snug the Joiner is a Rude Mechanical in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. My online handle is One Snug the Joiner. My business is Rude Mechanicals Press, and so it all sort of ties back into the Shakespeare. Everything I do.
You're kind of coming full circle.
I
there.
am.
Yeah. Trying to include everything.
I am.
That's great.
It's fun. But I'm also editor of the Chronicle, which is the journal of the Early American Industries Association, and that is a membership organization for people who study, collect, care about the tools and trades that help to build America. So I'm now working on my 3rd issue, and I'm the editor of that. It comes out 4 times a year, and that is a journal that goes to members of the organization.
What do you want your legacy to be? Yeah.
I want my legacy to be, and I don't even want to talk about it in terms of a legacy because I hope it happens within my lifetime, and we're back to the words and the adjectives and nouns.
Yeah.
I don't want there to be the adjective woman in front of woodworker. I want people to accept, and this is true for all walks of life, and I also want unicorns and rainbow colored cupcakes, I know, but to have people just say, oh yeah, she's a woodworker, or he's a woodworker, or not, oh, she's a woman woodworker. I just don't like the adjectival construction when it comes to describing people, and I hope that I can have some small part in helping to overcome that and just see people for who they are and not defining them by gender, but by what they're able to do and how they choose to present themselves and their work.
I think you're on that path.
I hope so. I'm going to continue forging down it.
Later in the show, Megan teaches us her dovetail layout technique. But first, make a smooth move on your table saw. Popular Woodworking Magazine shows us how. You're watching the Highland Woodworker.
I'm just an average, down-to-earth woodworker. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably about a 5. But one place I score a perfect 10 is right here, and I plan on keeping all 10. That's why I have a SawStop table saw. And there's more. Plenty of power, superior dust collection, and absolute accuracy. These features have made it the best-selling cabinet saw in America.
Order a SawStop professional cabinet saw in March or April of 2019 and choose either one of these accessories for free. That's a $249 extra value. Put a SawStop in your shop.
A lot of folks say they just don't make tools like they used to anymore. I don't know, I suppose that's true in some cases. But the good stuff is still out there. I'm talking about the tools that are just a pleasure to use, that are well designed to get the job done quickly and efficiently, and are made to last so they'll get passed on to the next generation. Whatever tools my grandkids use, I know one thing, they'll be keeping them Tormek sharp.
Woodworkers count on American-made forest saw blades for smooth, quiet cuts every time, without splintering, scratching, or tear-outs. The famous Woodworker 2 is the all-purpose combination blade. But for special cuts, Woodworker 2s are available for cutting dovetails, for flat-bottom joinery. A 30-tooth blade is perfect for ripping, a 48-tooth blade for superior cross-cuts, and a finger joint blade set. There is a perfect Forest Woodworker 2 for every table saw cut. Highland Woodworking has been a leader in woodworking education for more than 30 years. They offer all kinds of woodworking classes year-round, ranging from how to hand cut dovetails and mortises, to how to sharpen a plane or a chisel, how to build a cabinet, a chair, or a bookcase, or how to turn a wooden bowl. There are classes on wood finishing, French polishing, and even antique furniture restoration. For a list of upcoming classes that may interest you, just look in their catalog or go to highlandwoodworking.com.
Hey there, Highland Woodworker fans. Here at Popular Woodworking, we are happy to share our tips and tricks with you for every episode. Take a look at this one. Hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Zane Powell. I'm at Marc Adams School, and we have an interesting hold down that several years ago, Roger Cliff did a quick knockdown. We were running the shaper table, actually, and he showed us how to make a feather board, different than when I think of a feather board, you think of one of those diagonal things with the cuts in it. And he designed this and made it up for us, and then from there we've altered it many times for many different purposes. There's a few examples here, and then I'd like to just draw one out and show you how simple and versatile that you can make them. Okay, so I'm going to draw a little feather board here. I happen to have a piece of 1/2-inch Baltic birch, which is excellent, as most of us that have used it know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with where probably the clamp will be. I'm going to bring this up. The other clamp will be on this side. I'll bring that up. And then we want the part that actually holds down to be lower. So I'm going to go here. And then what it does from here to there is really not important. The important part of this is I'm going to cut from here. I'm going to come to this side to a hole I'm going to drill. And then my next one will start here. I'm going to cut across to another hole that I'm going to drill somewhere in here. And then likewise, I might be able to get in one more line. Maybe I'll bring this up higher. I'll cut across here, and it looks nice if you kind of line them up. It's not important. But what this is going to do for me is this will allow me to use this. I could use it on a router table. The clamp could come up here, it doesn't matter. But with it being such a low profile, if I call it that, on a table saw fence, I can put this and clamp it to a table saw fence, and my material can still come below, because most fences on a table saw are about 2 1/4 inches high. Okay, so I'm just going to drill 3 holes here, close to where I marked that. It's somewhat irrelevant. Nice clean holes, they're nice. Okay, and then we'll go to the bandsaw. Okay, so at the bandsaw, first I'm going to cut out the shape here, and then I'll come back and cut the actual working part of the jig. And the way I'll do that is I'll cut a bandsaw cut and a half. So as a table saw blade, we think of it as an 1/8 inch cut, and a bandsaw we think of as a 1/16. We need a little more room in there for springiness, so you'll see me cutting that a couple of times. Okay, so that's where my wood's going to pass underneath. And this is the springy part. Okay, so there you have your springy feather board and a place to put the clamps so you can raise it up higher or drop it down lower. Cool, eh? Put a little round over on that and jazz it up. People would buy those, I guess. Or you could give them as gifts. They make great stocking stuffers. With a couple clamps, I've clamped that on. Set my board here. We turn this on, make our cut. The hold down is holding it down right above the cut. It's nice, even pressure. And then when I get to here, from a safety standpoint, if I were running cabinet frame stock, I wouldn't let go of it like that, but I would be ready with a push stick that grips it from the back side, but from the side and not from the top. Because certainly if you've got a feather board, how many times have we used a feather board, but now you can't put your push stick on so everything's in the way? Well, you just got to lay it down and use it in the different plane. So it's quite nice, actually.
Hope you enjoyed that trick. Look for another one on the next episode of the Highland Woodworker.
Coming up, Megan Fitzpatrick shows us her simple way of setting up dovetails. You'll want to see this. You're watching the Highland Woodworker.
For 35 years, Leigh has manufactured the world's best joinery jigs. From our award-winning dovetail jigs and mortise and tenon jigs, to newer innovations like router table jigs. Easily add strong, beautiful joinery to your woodworking pieces, like half-blind dovetails, box joints, mortise and tenon joints, and through dovetails. Leigh, simply the easiest and most versatile router joinery jigs.
Whiteside Machine Company has been in business for over 30 years providing customers with quality router bits. Fine Woodworking Magazine has declared Whiteside router bits best overall and best value when compared against 17 other brands. No matter the router application, they have the type and profile of carbide router bit you need. When you put a Whiteside router bit to work in your shop, it is guaranteed to make you smile. Highland Woodworking stocks a wide selection of Rikon power tools, known for their innovative design and rugged durability. Highland has sold thousands of Rikon's industry-leading bandsaws with sizes to fit every woodworking need, from the compact affordable 10-inch model to competitively priced 14 and 18-inch models. Shop us also for Rikon's reliable planers, lathes, and professional low-speed grinder, all with an exceptional 5-year warranty. Rikon Power Tools. This show is about sculpture that rocks. Watch it at charlesbrockchairmaker.com. Let's go! If you can't make it to Highland Woodworking in Atlanta, Georgia, you can shop online at highlandwoodworking.com. They're great at getting what you want to your shop quick. Moment with a Master is brought to you by Highland Woodworking. Fine tools since 1978. Let Highland's legendary wood slicer resaw blade help make it easy for you to get great results sawing thick lumber into thinner boards. The wood slicer is designed to cut much faster, smoother, and quieter than ordinary bandsaw blades. You'll be amazed at how smooth a surface you'll get with a wood slicer. Its variable tooth pattern greatly reduces noise and vibration. Order a wood slicer from Highland Woodworking for your bandsaw today. We're at Megan's Bench at Lost Art Press in Covington, Kentucky. And she showed us her first dovetails, and now you have really become a master of the dovetail.
Oh, master, but I've become better.
Better, yes, all right. Well, layout is so important, and I think you have a little lesson for us or some techniques for laying them out.
Well, this is something Christopher showed me years ago, and it just made sense to me because I use 2 pairs of dividers. I leave those set throughout an entire project, so if I have 10 drawers, then it is really easy to replicate the exact same layout on all of them. And I just like the nice regimented look, if you will, the elegant look that gives to something.
Yeah.
So I already marked one baseline. I have set my gauge just to the thickness of my wood, and so I'll mark the second piece here. I'm gonna gang cut these because this is for a quote utility project. It's for my tool chest, my new one here. So I'll just mark out my baselines, and this is my tail board on the sides. I want the tails on the sides because I want the mechanical interlocking nature of the joint to work for me instead of against me. If I were to put the tails on the fronts, when I pull on it, you could pull the front off. That's why on kitchen drawers, for example, or all drawers, you'll see the dovetails, the tails on the side, so that when you pull forward, you're not pulling the drawer front off. So I'm doing the exact same thing here. And then, with my baselines marked, I'm going to look at my end grain. I want the heart side of the board facing out. So this one is facing out, this one is not. I'm going to flip it around. Now, the reason I do that is because if it starts to warp through seasonal movement, the joint itself will help hold things flat. So if I can, you know, if the appearance looks okay, because that's going to trump everything, I'll put the heart side out, which is what I've done here. So with that done, I'll just make sure they're lined up exactly the same here and slide them into my vise. Tighten that down. Okay, so I've got 2 pairs of dividers here, and I'm going to mark off the half pin here at either end, and I just sort of eyeball this. It's not actually half the width of what my pins end up being, but it's a half pin because you only have the angle on one half of the joint. You could set it to be half of one of your pins, but that might be a little weaker than I want it to be in this case. So I'll set that aside and leave it like that until I'm done with all my projects, or my project. That'll be my half pins on any drawer or till that I cut. And then I take a second pair, and I think I want 3 tails across here.
Okay.
So I'm going to drop my divider leg into that first little hole and walk down the board. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, wait a minute, you're over.
I know. And very important that you have to count as you move down the board. I can't get it right unless I count. I am over, and I want to be over 3, exactly. The distance from this pinhole to that leg is what the top of the pin is going to look like when I'm done. And I might want that just a little bigger, so I'm just going to open these up a tiny, tiny bit. And as I walk down the board, of course, it grows exponentially with each turn, so you don't want to adjust them too much. And I'm going to try again. So again, drop it in that pinhole. 1, 2, 3, again with the counting, right? So now that's going to be the distance at the top of my pins, and that's pretty good for a tool chest project. So this time when I walk down, I'll drop them in and stab. 1, 2, again with the counting. But instead of stabbing the third one in, I pick them up, I drop it in my other half pinhole, and walk back down the other way and stab in.
Yeah, now
so
you've
what
got
that,
it.
so what that tells me is that's where my dovetail gauge is going to go. I'll drop my pencil in here, come across. I do the 2 half pins first. I don't know why, I just do. And the reason I like to do tails first is because I can gang cut them like this. Also, I think that a tail cut is a harder cut than a pin cut. And so if I do the hard one first and then match the easier cut because it's a straight down cut to my tail cut, I have a much better chance of a really nicely dovetailed board instead of one that will just stay together.
Yeah.
So I've marked both ends, and then I'll come across and just work my way down. And you can see I'm going across both of my pieces here. And I believe I've chosen a 1 to 6 degree on this one. And did I get it back? Get it right upside down and backwards. And then I always, always, always tell my students to mark the waist because that helps you get the cut right, and then you mark it on top too. And really that's it. And you can see, oh, I missed my hole there. We'll look at this one. So the distance in between, that is the same distance that I crossed over down here when I was laying them out. And then I'm pretty much ready to saw at that point.
All right.
So, there you go.
So between the 2s and the counting to 3,
That's right.
we've got some great dovetails.
I
there.
hope so. Laid out. Now I just got to cut them well.
This is a Porter Cable dovetail jig. It's a 4200 series. And anytime you use a dovetail jig, there are a couple of things that you're going to be concerned about. 1, the stability of your router. 2, the router dust and chips are going to fly everywhere, probably back at you. Well, our friends at Leigh have solved the problem with the VRS1200. Now, the VRS1200 is an attachment to the jig. You put it on one time and you're done. When you're looking for innovation in routing accessories, Leigh has the answers. Leigh premium dovetail and joinery jigs have been recognized as the world's finest for over 35 years. The Leigh D4R Pro Jig is the most versatile and user-friendly dovetail jig available. The Leigh FMT Pro Jig, along with your router, turns your workshop into a full mortise and tenon factory. The Leigh RTJ400 router table dovetail jig is designed to provide fast and accurate routing of dovetails and box joints on your router table. Highland Woodworking is proud to stock these and many other Leigh dovetail and joinery jigs. Improve your woodworking experience. Sign up for Wood News Online, a monthly newsletter showcasing the latest news, tips, and classes Highland Woodworking has to offer. By signing up, you'll receive the latest episode of the Highland Woodworker, special store promotions, and Wood News Online delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up today. That's all the time we have for the show today. But check us out on social media and come back to see us next time on the Highland Woodworker.